Jeremy White Podcast. Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Available wherever you get your podcasts.
The Jeremy White Podcast.
With Bustan. For the best Lebanese cuisine in Montreal, it's got to be Bustan. Visit bustan.ca.
And loudtracks.com. Helping fans connect to their favourite artists. 100% high quality, officially licensed band merchandise that supports the artists you love. Visit our official band merch store at loudtracks.com. Watch the Jeremy White Podcast exclusively on YouTube.
My next guest is a guitarist, singer, songwriter. You've heard him on all kinds of things. You've probably seen him in concert one too many times with the Paul McCartney band. He's got a brand new single out. It's called Got a New Thing. Also, Whiskey Train, what? They're both available now. Welcome to the show. The man, there he is, Mr. Brian Ray.
Hey, man, how are you doing today?
I'm good. What's happening?
Good, man. Just, coming in from a nice walk out here by the beach and getting my day started here on the West Coast.
Look at you bragging.
Well,
by the beach.
It's safe, though, I mean, there's you can distance really easily.
Yes, that is true. Good excuse and good cover-up.
Yeah.
I'm in Montreal, and we just had a little bit of snow last night, but now it's melted already, so it's just whatever,
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah, Montreal. So beautiful. What a great city, man. What a great town. I love it there.
It's funny. So you play in Paul McCartney's band, right?
Yeah, sure do. Yeah, that's true. Guilty as charged.
So a friend of mine, she's the biggest Paul McCartney fan ever. And back in 2011 or 2012, you guys were playing the Bell Center here. And she was holding up a poster in the crowd and it said, "Will you please sign my arm so I can get it tattooed?"
Yeah.
And Paul saw the sign in the crowd and called her up on stage, and he autographed her arm, and now she has his autograph.
No way.
So
that's so cool. Yeah. Well, that arm is worth a lot on eBay, but it's probably worth more to her on her body.
Yes, exactly. I don't think you really, to be fair, how much do you think a limb autographed by Paul McCartney would go for on Reverb or something?
I don't even want to get into it, man. It's not cool. Not cool.
So,
why would we even suggest such a thing? Oh, my God.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, you never know. Dire straits, you got to do what you got to do. $20 is $20.
Wow.
So talk to me about this new music. Got a New Thing. I really dig the tune. It's some straightforward, power pop rock kind of deal. And, where did the song inspiration come from?
Yeah, man. Well, so I've been recording for Little Steven at Wicked Cool Records
the man.
For years now on a solo singles deal. So it was time for a new single, and I just had this riff in my mind that starts the song after the vocal intro.
Yeah.
And that's where the song started. It started with the riff, then that led to the verse changes, then that led to the chorus. I rewrote the chorus, just like that process that we do. But honestly, Jeremy, it sort of marinated in my mind, not to make us hungry, I know. Mm-hmm. It marinated in my mind for months before I started recording it. And it's an interesting process for me. This happens quite often where I start to hear the actual record, like everything about it in my mind, and then I record. Because then there's no question about what comes next. You kind of already know what's next. So the recording took 2 days.
Wow,
but the single took months to write in my mind. So it was a very interesting process. Inspiration comes from... this goes out to the survivors of abuse in cults, things like that, like Keith Raniere with the Nexium cult. It's not a fun topic. It's not like a rock and roll thing, but surviving and revenge is kind of a cool rock and roll thing.
As dark as it is, it's a good theme to write about.
As dark as it is, you're celebrating empowerment of women who have been, and men who have been coerced by cult leaders.
And, I really do feel like there's a lot of that goes on.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of, humans are funny, man. They like believing in something outside of themselves that makes them feel better inside. I don't know. It's been going on for all the ages.
Well, to be fair, you could also compare music to being a cult because some things are just awful, but then people are super into it.
Yeah. Sign me up. I'm in that cult.
Yeah, I'm in the music cult. So this is interesting to me. So, you play in Paul McCartney's band, and I guess I assume you're just like a hired gun kind of deal because he's putting out a new album and he's played everything on the record. How come he doesn't come to you guys in the band and say, hey, do you guys have any song ideas? I want to put out some new material. Why don't we all get together as a band? We tour this stuff anyway. You're going to end up eventually playing it on stage. Why don't we all collaborate and create some original tunes together as a band?
Hey, that's a cool idea. I'm going to give you his phone number. You can text him and pose that question to him because it would better be. No, the truth is, the answer is very short. It's because he's Paul McCartney.
Right.
And it's also because in this case, we're in a lockdown. And he texted me 3 or 4 weeks ago to say, hey, bro, I'll spare you the Paul McCartney impression.
No, do it. You got to do it.
No, I won't do it. Won't do it because this is being recorded. He texted to say, he's been working on a new album and it's all been done during lockdown and he did it all by himself. And the truth is, you and I and all of the Beatles, Wings, and solo Paul fanatics out here recognize the sound of Paul accompanying Paul. McCartney 1 and 2 were done, just all Paul with some harmonies from Linda. And so that when we hear that sound, we're familiar with it. It has a sound. So here we are, McCartney 3, and it's all Paul, and I'm in, man. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about guitar because, just doing some research and stuff, I was talking to my buddy Mitch LaFon, and he was saying that you played on one of one of my favorite records is that Shakira album. And it has a lot of those, radio hits on it. Because I work in pop radio as my day job. And I play whenever, like all the time. Yeah. And that opening guitar like that. Yeah. So when you go into a session like that, what kind of direction are you given from the producers and saying, because you're making a pop record, but, as a guitar player, you kind of want to make your stamp at the same time,
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, so that I played that intro and that whole song.
But it's you playing the intro.
That's me on the intro.
Wow.
And that's me on, half of the album. I played guitars on half the album. By the time Shakira got to me with her producers, she had already been through, 20 guitar players. And for some reason, things weren't clicking for her. She's very particular. And I waltzed in there and, I guess they were out of time. They used me on just day after day after day. I had a hotel in Miami, near Miami, and when it came to the intro of that song and the rhythm guitar for that song, they did have specific things in mind, and it was very simple. It was just that lick, but they did. It wasn't to a click. It was just sort of free.
Really?
But they wanted it to feel a certain way, so I did it about 10 times. Until it felt just right for them. And that's the recording process. That's the beauty of recording is you may work on something for days, but that lasts forever. So the producer and the artist are right to want that to be exactly as they hear it in their minds.
No, totally. And to go in and record, that simple guitar lick now that I hear it every time I play it on the radio, I'm going to say it. I'll be like, the guitar player took him 10 times to play this perfectly.
Don't say that. That makes me sound terrible. Say that the producer was very, very picky. Although Brian played it perfectly the first time.
There you go.
It just kept going on and on and on and on and on. Then we had a sandwich.
There you go.
It's all good, man. It's
Do you have any cool stories about working in the studio with Shakira, on those sessions? Like, did you work directly with her, like in the studio at all? Like, is there any photos of you just like chilling there with your guitar and she's there like kind of like vibing or?
No, interesting. So I'm in there. I've already been working for like a couple of hours and it's going great. We're having a good time. A beautiful studio in Miami. And I haven't even met Shakira yet. And she's kind of listening out there or whatever. Anyway, I see this face kind of peer around the corner and then disappear. And I'm playing. I'm like, I don't know, what is that about? Yeah. They have security around here. People are just like peering in here while we're working.
Housekeeping.
It happens again. And it's Shakira. Yeah. Then she finally warms up enough to come in. and introduce herself. And then she was there for all of the rest of it. And it was lovely. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's just like one of the biggest, I think one of the coolest and, pop records of the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, it was a great record. And all these fantastic producers, there were like 4 different producers on it, co-producing with her. And I worked with all of them, and it was fantastic. And wow, that thing sold a lot. I mean, I don't even know what the numbers are, but it's millions of copies were sold,
Yeah. I mean, just on that single alone, it's like, that's a lot of albums.
Yeah. And my buddy, who's still her musical director, wrote or co-wrote that song, Tim Moore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a happy camper from that one.
Yeah, so that must be still paying nicely, even through the streaming and everything.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm sure that it gets played all the time still. It's very sort of...
Like on Hot AC radio, you hear that all the time,
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But
yeah.
So let me ask you this, because I've always been curious. I was talking to Steve Lukather about this last week, and, talking to somebody like you who's played, obviously, on one of the biggest pop albums ever with Shakira. How does that work, because I'm just genuinely curious. So you get paid just for the session. You get paid your session rate, and then that's it. Like, c'est la vie. Here's your $1,000 for the day, and that's it. Or do you get a point on the song, and every time it gets spun, do you get a kickback or?
There are some special payments funds for participation in a record that goes huge on, say, I played on a song that was on Pretty Woman, the film, in Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman. It was called Fallen by an artist named Lauren Wood. Okay. And it's a very cool record. Anyway, I played on it so long ago. Then it gets put into that movie, and all of a sudden I get a check for a lot of money. And I'm going, Pretty Woman. Wow. So yeah, you do get paid on things like that.
So you do. Okay. So it does end up continuing to pay.
There are some royalties involved, but none like those for the writers.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine. So now, as an artist, and you're putting music out in 2020, you're dealing with all these streaming services and everything, is it even financially sound to be putting out music and dealing with the streaming service? Because now, it's like you can't really go tour behind the music and you're going to make pennies off the music. It's like, are you doing it for the love of it, or is it like a business for you?
Well, I do it for the love of it. I do it because I have music in me that has to be coming out.
You gotta get it out.
Got to get it out. It's a great thing to do with this sort of frustrating time we're in, because I have my home studio and I can do this kind of stuff, get my engineer over here and we rock out and mask up and distance. And I'm recording right now, as a matter of fact, not right this second, but I'm in the middle of a project right now for a podcast. The truth is that I have a really cool record deal with Wicked Cool Records. Little Steven from Springsteen's band, The Sopranos, Lilyhammer, has a great record label called Wicked Cool Records. And they've been putting out sort of garage rock singles and albums for years now. And then he also has a radio station on Sirius XM.
The Underground Garage.
The Underground Garage.
I used to listen to it. They aired it on the rock station here in Montreal on Sunday nights, like years ago. I used to pump gas, and my buddy and I, Adam, we'd listen to it on Show'em, and we'd listen to he's like, dude, Little Steven's on. We got to put it on. Yeah. And so that's where I discovered Little Steven. I wasn't really like a big Boss fan or anything, but I grew up knowing him as a radio host, which is kind of hilarious.
I hear that. He's just one of those guys, and so he's got the record label and he's got the radio station, and the only artists that he signs to his record label are ones that would fit in the culture of his radio station. Ooh. So he'll sign you to your record label and he'll play you on his radio station. That does become lucrative.
That's better than payola right there.
It is. It's legal too.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to question it. It's fine. Yeah. I do just fine with it, actually. And and then, part of the deal is that they give you, as part of your deal, a bunch of vinyl singles that you can then sell on your site and sign, which I'm doing now over at my website, brianray.com.
Oh, I'm going to have to go buy one.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Thanks for the support. But, it's fine. And then Sound Exchange does pay the royalties for airplay, and you do make some money. It's surprising. Yeah. It's a lot better than if I didn't have a deal and it was streaming only.
Right.
Because that would be pennies. You know, it's really not glorious. But this is something that actually works, believe it or not. Yeah.
So as an artist, you know, airplay is still really important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so Little Steven not only has the Sirius radio show, that show is
well, it's a nationally syndicated, you know, buyout that you get it on, you know, it'll be on in Boise and then it'll be on in Calgary, you know, and so
that's right. In 170 countries and 180 markets on terrestrial radio in the States. So it's all over the world. And because of that, you do get a lot of exposure.
And all those spins, they add up, you know?
Yeah, they do.
So what do you got going on in that home studio? I see you got like an 1176 back there. You got some nice monitors.
There's a guy who knows what he's talking about. I got some sort of older JBL LSR 28Ps. I have a 60s 1176 as you see.
Yeah.
Chandler germanium mic pre. Pro Tools HD, you know, got my scene going here. Some small monitors, some big monitors.
Yeah.
What kind of Elvis? Bunch of amplifiers.
I was going to say, what kind of amps are you using to track your stuff?
Okay, so I'm using the Universal Audio aux for speakers lately. That's
so
great.
you're using the top box thing.
Yeah.
How do you like that? Do you like it?
It's really great for a lot of the things. For some of the dirtier things, I prefer a real cabinet, and I have them in the other room.
Right.
They're kind of locked away under a stairwell. But anyway, here's a 60s Vox AC30.
Wow.
There's a 69 Marshall 50-watt metal front, an earlier 60s metal front 20-watt, and a Sir Bella, which is sort of a Fendery vibe. So between those amps, I can get everything I'm looking for. And then if not, I also have combos here, like an old Fender Vibro Verb with great reverb in it and stuff like that. You're a guitar nerd? I'm a guitar nerd.
I'm a bit of a guitar nerd, yeah. I was actually thinking of buying one of those Universal Audio, the top box things. Because right now, I'm running my amp into a Palmer speaker simulator, and I'm putting that directly into Pro Tools in my Universal Audio interface. But it sounds too spongy for me, and it sounds too like, you know, there's just too much like compression going on. And I'm looking at that box, and I'm asking everybody that's using them, and they're like, I love it, I love it, I love it. So
it's great. It's super great. I would suggest, do you follow another fellow Canadian named Pete Thorne?
Yes, I love Pete Thorne.
So if you'll look at Pete's, I'm giving a plug now.
Yeah.
My buddy Pete Thorne, who's worked with me in my live situations many times over the years, and who I've recorded with as well. He has on his Instagram, Pete Thorne. I guess it's just Pete Thorne.
Yeah, Pete Thorne, probably.
He has a recent thing with all of his impulse response and modeling to replace your Palmer. There's a whole new generation of things that you should check out. Look at his most recent post and you'll see him talking about it, okay?
Damn. Yeah, I'm going to check that out. So
he's the man.
So with the home studio there, the gear you use there, you know, what are you using live? Like how big of a difference like is your like the touring rig compared to what you're using to record in studio?
Oh, it's entirely different. For Paul, as you know, I play guitar and I play bass. So
first of all, let me just say, you're the bass player for the Beatles bass player.
Oh God, it's so stupid. Right? I call it stunt bass. I play stunt bass. I'm the stunt bass player. Well, I get to play bass on those incredible hits and deep tracks of Paul's. And it's a total privilege and an honor, and it's intimidating, but it's really fun. And, you know, it's quite logical in a way. Once you get into it, then you start to sing, oh, I see what he's doing. But you'll never be Paul. You know, no one is Paul. He's quite an amazing bass player, by the way. It's not just, you know, melody. His time and his feel are incredible. Anyway, my onstage rig is I have two divided by 13 BTR 23s. That's a cool sort of smaller amp, 23 watts, two of those. and they go stereo out of a pedal board with a nice pedal board. And then the bass situation is Ashdown heads, 900-watt Ashdowns. And those heads live off stage and just the cabinets are on stage.
Oh, nice. So you're still using, you got the cabinets on there. Is it a pretty loud stage, or is everybody using in-ears, or is it kind of like a vintage kind of classic sounding stage?
It's classic, old school. It's fairly loud up there. We have monitors. Nobody's on in-ears except for Wicks, who's the keyboard player and musical director. And I think it's because he really requires fidelity.
Yeah, you need that clarity.
Volume. I mean, he really needs to be able to hear everything so that he can yell at us later. No,
exactly.
He doesn't do that. So yeah, he's the only one that's on in-ears, and he only started doing that a couple of years ago. He was on monitors just like all of us, but he got more picky and picky as time went on. Oh my God, that guy's got a whole condominium of sound up there.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, hey, gearheads, what do you want,
Yeah, he can have it, so he has it.
That's it. When, money's no object. Hell, I want that keyboard.
I know.
That amp.
I guess that's it, man.
So, man, it was so cool to talk to you. This was really cool. Next time we're in Montreal, next time Paul McCartney's in town, we got to meet up for a coffee or something.
I'd love that, man. Yeah, and I'd do a live interview once we all get a vaccine in us.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be awesome. Backstage, Bell Center, I'm in.
Come on, man. Oh, we got to do it. Yeah.
So you got the singles deal. Are you just going to stick with the singles, do the 7-inch, and that's it? Or are you going to put them all together and create a record?
Well, that's a good question, and it's another question that I can't answer. I know I'd like to do an album, but that's not really up to me. This is my 5th solo single with Wicked Cool Records. We've only done vinyl on 4 of them. My first single was called Here For You, and on the other side of it, the flip side, was my cover of Cinnamon Girl. Another Canadian, Neil Young.
Yeah, Neil Young.
And then the next 4 were all done as vinyl singles. And now there's 10 songs. So I would love to do an album, but that's really up to them, and it's up to the distributor and see if it makes sense to them. But, we'll see what the future brings, man. I make some more music. That's my vibe.
Even if you do just like a limited run of like 100 or something, and you throw them up on your site for, the diehards that would love to have that in their collection, there's fans of everything. People will buy them,
Do you spin vinyl at home?
Yes, I love vinyl. I just bought it's funny. So right at the beginning of the pandemic, of course this shit had to happen to me, right? I had a belt drive record player, and the motherfucker snapped on me. Oh. And I couldn't find a replacement for it. It was like an old one from and when I say old, I mean it's from like 2010. I bought it at like Urban Outfitters. Like an ex-girlfriend bought it for me for Christmas. So I was like, well, you know what? Bad memories. The belt is out. Throw the fucker out. So I got a new Audio-Technica turntable. I think the proper one, like the speed control, and it's got everything. And it sounds wonderful. I'm running it through some JBLs and like studio monitors. And it sounds great. Yeah. What was I just listening to? What I was just listening to on vinyl? I was just listening to The Weeknd's latest album.
Yeah.
The Weeknd. It's called After Hours. And talk about somebody, when everything old is new again. Like that dude's album, it's just like, it sounds like 1986.
Yeah. He got way into that sort of Quincy Jones vibe, very clean, hi-fi.
Yeah.
Not a big low end, kind of snappy sound. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah. No, it sounds great. So yeah, I love spinning vinyl at home. So like I said, I'm gonna have to buy a couple of your singles on the site, and I love supporting the bands that I interview, and love supporting the artists, because it's everybody's got to support each other, right? So
I appreciate that, man. That's very, very cool of you.
So I'm gonna get those. I'll spin them. I'll send you a video of me spinning them. Throw them up on my Twitter.
Yeah, you'll get a kick out. The new one, as you've heard, features this intro with a great big background vocal wall.
Yeah, that sounds So how many tracks of vocals did you do on that?
That is, so I did the lead vocals on it, and I wanted the background vocals to sound separate from me, very different from me. Mm-hmm. So I had Scott Schreiner of Weezer and Abe Laboriel Jr. of Paul McCartney sing all of those background parts that I arranged and wrote in the marinating days. Anyway, they nailed them. So that is, let me see, 3 times 2. So that's, that's 6 of Scott Schreiner and 6 of Abe Laboriel Jr.
Oh, that's actually not that much, and it sounds awesome.
Yeah, we didn't want to go like 4 times each. We went,
Well, I'm a big Mutt Lange fan, so I'm no stranger to the big stack backing vocals. So, but when I hear stack vocals, I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's got to sound. It's a funny thing though, Jeremy. If you stack twice as many, then it starts sounding dated to me. You still want to hear the individuality with that. So if you just double it and then you go on to the next part, double that, and then you double the third part, then you get a different singer to do the same thing with a different tonal quality. Then it starts to sound just modern and cool to me.
Yeah. Well, hold on a second. Define dated, though. Because when I listen to, Def Leppard and stuff like that, I still think, to me, as a 26-year-old dude, it still sounds fresh as ever.
Now, listen, I'm going to go way out on a limb here and tell you that I am a giant Def Leppard fan. And a lot of my musical friends, like, oh, man, like they're really judgmental about, pop metal, pop rock, whatever you want to call this.
Yeah. I like to just call it good music, but okay.
Good music, right. I don't need a label. So they're genius, right? Just hooks galore. It's one hook after another. It's a lyric hook. It's a musical hook. It's a crazy background. But I would say this. I'm going to also go out on a limb and say I would do anything to hear Hysteria remixed and remastered and dry it up about 30%. It's just way too much reverb and way too much, 80s snare.
Cannonball snare.
If they could just dry it up just a little bit, make it sound just a little bit more like Pyromania or High and Dry, I'd begin.
But I personally think, listen to that album, I think everything sounds exactly the way it's supposed to sound. Because if you take away a little bit of, the reverb on the snare or like some of the delays and stuff, it leaves pockets where everything, it's a sonic assault and it hits every spectrum of the curve. And it's like, if you take something away, well, then the way Mutt mixes his stuff, there's going to be a empty space like there where a delay should be, or you know what I mean? So it's like, I think that the record is exactly the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, we can debate this. We can debate this for days. Yeah. I'm just going to say, Mutt never did another album so wet after that. And let's take a look at another production of his. Wait a second. How about Back in Black? Okay, dry as a bone. And tell me if that thing doesn't punch you right in the gut every time anything happens on that album. The thing is, the more reverb and delay you get, the farther and farther back the record appears. The more dry it is, the more in your face it is. I would like to hear split the difference on that album.
But also, recording technology was completely different at the time. You didn't have the resources that you did in 1986, 87, from, the Fairlight programming and all these things. It's like, then again, you listen to Back in Black, and I think it's the greatest sounding rock record of all time.
There's no doubt about it. Mutt Lange again.
Of course.
A drier Mutt Lange.
But then if you go listen to Shania Twain's Come On Over, it has the Back in Black sonic quality to it because the drums are dry. They're saturated. They got some processing on them, but it still sounds like a band playing in a room.
That's what I'm saying. So Mutt had this incredible vibe, and then he got, like he went into a typhoon of wetness for one album, came to his senses, and got back to his roots. The Shania stuff is massive. It's great. Because it still has walls of vocals. Maybe not quite as wall-licious, but it's not all, slathered.
Yeah. The music scene was also in that situation at the same time, too. You listen to the pop records, you listen to the Whitney Houston, the How Will I Knows, and the Madonna and everything. It all had that, saturated, processed tone. So it is a product of the time. If you go listen to Bryan Adams, another Canadian, Waking Up the Neighbors, which is Mutt Lange again, that could have been Hysteria Part 2.
Yes, very true. Yeah, that's very true. It sure could have been. Yeah. It had all the sort of pop sensibility and hook and songcraft and production craft. It was great. Yeah. I mean, that guy's amazing. Yeah.
Well, we can go on and on about it, but I'll let you go.
Well, thanks so much for having me on, man. It's been a total treat.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. It was really cool. So the new single's called "Got a New Thing," video out and everything. Whiskey Train. Go buy the limited edition 7-inch autographed on the site and support the band. Support them. You can't tour. You can't be on stage with a Beatle. So At least buy his albums.
Yeah, pop by, man. Come and visit us over at the site. That'd be great.
Yeah. All right, man. Next time you're in Montreal, let's meet up and we'll do this in person. I'd love to see that bass and guitar rig.
Let's do it.
All right, man. Thanks.
Be well.